Babes, welcome back to the Year I Made It podcast. My name is Madison, and thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. This is going to be a travel recap episode where I'm going to share a little bit about the coolest trip that I just went on. It was so fun, so much to see, so much to explore, so much to do. And I'm going to share with you guys the good, the bad, and the ugly of going on a solo healing trip. So I did this trip, actually I just got back yesterday, and so I had decided a little while ago that I wanted to do a healing trip to Arizona, Utah, Vegas. So basically fly into Phoenix, fly out of Vegas, and hit a ton of stops on the way. And so I had decided this was going to be a mostly solo trip because I wanted to just like read, write, meditate, heal, feel, do all the things. And I committed and I did it, and I felt a lot of things. I healed a lot, and I'm super excited to tell you guys about it. So I did the first part of the trip with my aunt. So I have an aunt that lives in Phoenix, and so I flew into Phoenix and spent the first day and night with her. We just bebopped around. She has this gorgeous house with a pool, and so we literally just hung out, grilled, made dinner, laid by the pool, all the fun things. From there, we went to Sedona, and so Phoenix to Sedona is about a 2-hour drive, so not bad. Also beautiful drive, like, oh, so scenic, so beautiful. So if you guys do not know about Sedona, Sedona is a place that is very big for healing. So Sedona has healing vortexes, they have energy healers, Reiki healers, all those sorts of things. I am super into those things, super fascinated, want to do all the healing. So me and my aunt went and did an energy healing session at one of the vortexes with an energy healer. It was super cool, super insightful. I actually did a whole episode just on that experience. So if you were like, oh, tell me more, bebop back probably like 2 episodes, and then you guys will be able to see that episode. So from there, I went, Sedona was the last stop with my aunt, and then from there until I came back, it was a solo trip. So got to spend lots of time by myself, just thinking, meditating, reading, writing. It was honestly a great time. I've never done a solo trip before, so I'm going to share with you guys the good, the bad, and the ugly. So from there, I went to Page, and I did Page, Arizona. And so I did kayaking, Lake Powell, and then kayaking, hiking Antelope Canyon. And so we did a total of 5 miles kayaking. So this is where the lessons are going to come in, y'all. So I would say I'm in like pretty good physical shape. I go to the gym like 3 or 4 times a week. I can't kayak 5 miles. I don't know what the fuck I thought I could. I can't. Nope. So we get there to Lake Powell, and so it's about a 2.5 mile kayak in, 2 mile hike, and then 2.5 mile kayak back. It's like a 4 or 5 hour round trip excursion. And so I did this with a place called Lake Powell Kayak and Paddleboard. Would 10 out of 10 recommend. They were awesome. We had tour guides named Ryan and Chris. They were the shit, so fun. It was a great experience. But my lesson was I am not in good enough physical shape to kayak 5 miles. So I don't know if you guys have ever been so like physically exhausted that you wanted to cry, cuss, and pray all at the same time just because you didn't know what was going to get you through, but one of them was, right? So that was me, honestly, about a mile in. And so fortunately we had the hike in between to break it up. But you guys, I had to like summon some serious inner strength because I was the straggler of the kayaks, right? So it's like me, I'm the last one. And I'm going as fast as I possibly can with my little arms, just boop, 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 boop. We're going nowhere. And I made it, and I was so proud of myself. And it was one of those like physical experiences where by the time you get to the end, you are so wiped that you're just like, I'm so proud of myself for making it. And so it was such a beautiful experience. So one cool thing that I learned is Lake Powell basically looks different every time you go depending on the water levels. So when I went this time, the water levels were super low, so that meant the canyon looked like even bigger than it really is. So that was super cool. So kayaked through Lake Powell, and then we stopped at this little beach that you can hike Antelope Canyon that you can only access by kayak, which was so cool. And then we kayaked in. It was literally everything you guys could ever imagine. So I had seen Paige on Pinterest and been like, oh my gosh, it's so stunning. Like, it looks just like that in person. Like, pictures do not do it justice. It's so beautiful, such a great time. And I would really recommend you guys doing this sort of adventure if you have a lot of upper body strength and you are good with committing a day, because it was like you had to check in at, I think, 10:40 or 10:15, and then we got back at 3:30. And one thing that I kind of relearned on this trip is any sort of national park that you go to, you are gonna probably have to wait in a little bit of line just to get into the park. And then once you get to the park, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're where you want to be. Sometimes you have to drive miles into the park to get to where you're looking for. So that's just like a little tip that I relearned when it comes to just timing things. So I also went to the Grand Canyon. And so I hiked the Grand Canyon. I did the South Kebab Trail. It's probably not how you say it, but either way, if you see it, it looks like kebab. So South Kebab Trail is what I did. It was so beautiful, honestly. I had never been to the Grand Canyon before, so you can obviously do like the main overlook. That's super cool, but I would totally recommend doing any one of the hikes. A lot of them are not like up and down hikes, like they're pretty just like really like going around the rim of the canyon. So I personally went to the south rim of the canyon and I did the South Kebab Trail and I loved it. It was so beautiful, so scenic, and really enjoyed just the time there. So from there, I went to Zion. And so I've been to Zion one time before. I hiked the Narrows probably in March, maybe 2 years ago. It was really cold, but it was so, so, so beautiful. So this time I'm like, bam, I'm gonna go back to Zion and I am gonna do horseback riding. So I find the coolest place. It's literally called like Zion Horseback Trails. Amazing. It's an hour horseback trail. Ended up going a little over, which was nice. And you literally drive into like probably like 4 or 5 miles into Zion, and then from there you get on a horse and there's literally a horse specific trail through Zion where you take this horse, like an hour trail. It's so beautiful, so cool, and so serene. So I did that and it was awesome. And so my lesson here, I actually have like a lesson and a story. So my lesson is that parks take time and to be prepared and print your shit. So for me to park where I needed to park in Zion, I had to have like a specific parking pass printed out. And I struggled to get like the right version of it emailed to the hotel to get them to print it. So then I was kind of rushing because it took me a little bit longer to get into the park than I thought. And so my lesson there was have your ish printed out if you need it. And then always give yourself like an additional, like probably at least 30 minutes to get into the park, just between waiting in the line or finding parking or actually getting to where you need to go in the park, whatever that looks like, it'll take some time. So I just wish I would have given myself more so I wasn't rushing and so I could have enjoyed the view and the drive into Zion a little more. So, all right, so here is my like wild story for when I was in Zion. So I used my Hilton points for all of my hotels while I was there. So stayed in some pretty beautiful places. So I stayed in this place in Zion that was called the Curio Hotel, I believe. And so it's literally like right outside Zion. And so you're literally like overlooking Zion from your balcony. It's so beautiful. So of course, because I'm bougie, I splurged and I spent all the points on the balcony room overlooking Zion. So I get there, I'm like, bam, gotta look at this balcony view. Boom, 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 boom. Me goes up to the balcony, nothing. Didn't bring anything, didn't bring my phone, my key, nothing. So it would turn out this hotel actually has a lock on the outside of the balcony. So I get locked out on the outside of the balcony, nothing, just me. And I'm on the second floor. And so I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna wait for somebody to walk by and like flag them down and be like, hey, I'm locked out. Like, can you go get somebody and get them to help me? So this is about, I don't know, probably like 5 or 6 o'clock at this very secluded place in Zion. There's no one's walking by. It's just me. So I'm like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to fucking The Rock this shit and I'm gonna like jump off the balcony, right? Because I'm like picturing like, I don't know, some like Fast and the Furious movie with like The Rock and Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Vin Diesel where they're like jumping off balconies or some shit and thinking like, I can do it. So I do. Well, first, okay, so I go to the other side of the balcony and I'm about to jump and I'm like, I can't do it. It's too high. Come back around, wait like another 5 minutes. I'm like, somebody has to come by. Nobody comes by. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do it. So I just go to the other side. There's like a little tiny ledge that I kind of like set my foot on, and then I just jump. And it's a little further than I was expecting, of course. So I hit the ground and kind of like do like a little somersault, but it's like super padded grass, so perfectly fine. So great news. So I go to the front desk, and I don't want to have to explain this entire embarrassing story to the front desk guy. So I'm just like, hey, I was just here to check in. I got locked out of my room. Can I get a key to get back in? He gives me a key, and as he's giving it to me, he's like, oh, by the way, there's something funky going on with the locks on the balconies. We're getting them all replaced, but just FYI, it's possible you could get locked out on your balcony. And instead of being like, no fucking way, that just happened to me, I just said, noted. And I walked away. So then I get to my room, and since I travel by myself for work so much, I am like a habit, the little lock thing that you can put over the door so nobody can get in. I had that locked. So I couldn't even get back into my room. So then I have to go back and explain to this guy that, yeah, I do know about how you can get locked out on the balcony because it happened to me and I had to jump down. That's actually why I was here. And so the key works, but I can't get in because I locked my safe latch, and so I can't get into my room even though you gave me a key. And he's just looking at me like, okay. So he comes with me, and he sees what I'm talking about, and he's like, oh, okay. So he goes in, I guess, to the next room and shimmies across the balcony and then comes in and lets me in my room, and I finally make it in. This is like probably like a 25-minute process from the time I get locked out to the time I finally get back in. I finally get back in. I'm so happy I could cry. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing that again. So I go back out there, and I go back out there with my room key, my phone, the whole nine. Guess what happens? Fucking get locked out there again. It turns out only a master key works for that balcony door, which I later find out because this time when I get locked out, I have my phone. So I call the front desk. I'm like, hey, it's Madison again, locked out on the balcony again. So he comes into the room next door, comes on the balcony, gives me a new key. I try that key, that doesn't work. He gives me the master key, that works. I'm like, yes, I'm in. He's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, don't worry, I just literally will not shut the balcony door again. It's a beautiful evening, no need to, like, whatever. So that I just wanted to share with you guys because of course that would happen to me while I'm like by myself in the middle of BFE in literally the most beautiful place ever, but still like in a panic, getting locked out on the balcony and having to jump out the second story floor. So anyways, that was just a little fun fail for you guys. So hope you guys enjoyed picturing me jumping out a second floor balcony. It was significantly less graceful than I'm sure you pictured. So from there, I went to Vegas. And so I spent the last 2 days in Vegas. And so whenever I went to Vegas, I literally just wanted to chill. Obviously, by this point, I've been all around the world. I've done all the hiking. I've done all the kayaking. I just want to lay by a pool. So that's what I did. So I booked a hotel in Vegas where I could literally just like lay by the pool, chill, that sort of thing. So I get to Vegas on a Wednesday, and so I always go to AA on Wednesdays. And so even if I'm traveling, I'll just find an AA wherever I am. That's the cool thing about them. They're literally everywhere. So I just find an AA wherever I am, and so I go. So in Vegas, there's a million AA groups, which I assumed because it's obviously like probably a pretty big place for people in recovery. And so there is a million AA groups to choose from. I find a ladies group to go to, which was super cool because I've never been to an all women's AA group. And so that was a really cool experience. There was this girl named Samantha there that just shared her whole story. A ton of girls shared. It was super cool, super fun, and really just a great reminder. Like I've been to Vegas twice before. And so the last 2 times I went to Vegas, I was like getting champagne drunk at like 9 a.m. and then like, just spiraling from there. And then this time I was just in a ladies group of AA. So that was like a really cool moment of just like, damn, we have come so far. We have made it. I'm so proud of me. And here we are living our best non-alcohol life in Vegas. So that was really cool. And so after that, I really just laid by the pool, hung out. And then there was one day that I was going to have like a couple appointments. Like I had a speaking coach, I was going to grab lunch, and then I had therapy. And so I'm driving this rental car that, because I am one of those people that is like always like about to run out of gas, I run out of gas in this rental car because it doesn't tell me how many miles it's empty, it just says low. So a toxic trait of mine, if it says low, I'm gonna see how low we can get. So I run out of gas. I'm on the phone with my boyfriend, run out of gas. I'm like, oh shit, I think I just ran out of gas. He's like, okay, put your flashers on, like call somebody. So I put my flashers on, call somebody, and this is at like there's probably like 10 lanes, like 5 this side, 5 this side. I'm stuck in the very middle turn lane. And everybody in Vegas is incredibly angry with me for being stuck at this. Like, everybody's honking at me, like giving me the middle finger, like it's a whole thing. And so I call to get somebody to come. It's gonna be like 45 minutes. So I'm literally just like sitting at this intersection just crying. And this girl comes up and she's like, hey, are you okay? And I'm like crying. I'm like, I ran out of gas, but somebody's coming, but it's gonna be like 45 minutes. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna go get you gas and I'm gonna come back. And I was like, are you serious? And she was like, yeah. And so while I'm sitting there just crying, waiting for her to come back, this guy comes up and he's like, hey, throw your car in neutral and I'm gonna push you out of this intersection. I'm like, what? Are you serious? Really? And so he does. And fortunately, I am in like a Chevy Spark, which is like a smart car looking thing. It's a tiny car, right? So fortunately, he's able to just bloop me right out of the intersection. I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much. I'm like using my shirt as like, you know, to like get the snot from like getting out of my mouth. You know, it's a good time. So then I have therapy. So in my mind, I had enough time to like run, grab lunch, come back to therapy, but I ran out of gas on the way. So I'm like, do I cancel my therapist? And I'm like, fuck no, I need her now more than ever, right? So I hop onto therapy at Zoom. I hop on and like she can tell I look disheveled. She's like, oh my gosh, what happened? I'm like, oh my gosh. So I tell her what happens. And about the time I finish, the girl who told me that she's gonna go get me gas comes back. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there is this girl that said she was gonna get me gas, and she actually did, and she came back and she just got here. So I like just like put my therapist like in the car seat and like go, and I'm like having this literal so sweet interaction with her. And she is like, girl, I saw you on the side of the road. I saw everybody honking at you. And I called my dad and I was like, should I help this girl? She even think I'm trying to kidnap her. And my dad was like, no, you should absolutely help her. And she was like, and women need to help women. So that's why I stopped. And I could not just be leaving women out here stuck on the side of the road crying in their car like that. Like literally the sweetest angel, the sweetest angel. And so literally serious events is I'm sitting in my car just crying, praying like, God, please get me out of this situation. And then this girl pops up and says she's gonna get me gas. And I'm like, what? And so then as she's like leaving, after like she gives me the gas, I'm like, my car's starting, life's great again. I'm like, oh my God, please let me give you a hug. She's like, I just want to let you know that like God was definitely looking out for you today. And I'm like, oh my God, he was. I was literally praying for someone to help me when you showed up. It was literally like the sweetest like emotional moment ever. So then I get back in the car and like my therapist obviously hears this whole interaction because like I left her just in the front seat chilling. And so I like get my phone back and she's like, oh my God, that was so sweet. I'm like, oh my God, I know, people are so nice. So that was a really sweet story, but my lesson to myself was I'm never gonna be a like, let's see how many miles I can go until empty again, because it was too traumatic. It was too traumatic. I couldn't do it. I don't want to do it again. But honestly, thank God for my little angel who popped up on the side of the road. Thank God for the guy that pushed me out of the road. And thank God for my therapist for having like the most dramatic therapy session ever with me in the middle of like fucking Thursday. So yeah. So that was the good, the bad, and the ugly of the solo trip. So, oh, I just did one other thing. Before I left, I went to go see Valley of Fire State Park. And so I'd never been there before. When I'd been to Vegas before, I'd wanted to go, but Valley of Fire is like a solid hour drive, like from Vegas. It's in the middle of nowhere, so it's not like you're going there and then like bebopping somewhere else. Like it's its own thing, you know? So I go there. It is so beautiful. So I went there. I probably got there at like 5:30, and I probably stayed till like 7:30, and it was so beautiful. I got to watch the sunset. The rocks were literally stunning. Also, one thing that was really cool about Valley of Fire and Zion is whenever you're driving through, like you're driving through on these really tiny like 2-lane roads, but basically like the canyons and the rocks like basically like come down, so it's like literally like you just driving in between the canyons and the rocks like all the way through. It's so beautiful, so scenic. So it was a really good time. So I hope you guys enjoyed my little Arizona, Utah, and Vegas adventure. So I wanted to leave with some tips, tricks, and recommendations. So the one thing that I would say is, as far as recommendations go, I would honestly recommend all the things that I did. I did not do a single thing that was not an absolute great time. But I would recommend getting a national parks pass if you do. So I got a national parks pass at the first park that I went to for $80, and it lasts for a year, and it gets you into all the national parks. And to put it into perspective, each park is between $30 to $35 to get in. So I would have spent like $95 literally just getting into parks if I hadn't bought that pass. And the only thing I did that was not included in that pass was Valley of Fire, since that's a state park. I had to pay $15 to get in there, which $15 is not bad. So that is definitely something that I would do. And also, I have a couple other national parks I want to go to, so I'll definitely use that pass again between now and a year from now. So that was definitely a really cool thing that I would definitely do. I also would make sure, so horseback riding, if you don't know, definitely pack jeans and tennis shoes if you've never done it before. You do not want to be wearing sweatpants or leggings. You want the jeans, trust me. And then for the kayaking adventure, the one thing that I do wish I would have done is I wish I would have worn more like athletic apparel. I wore jean shorts, a tank top, and a bathing suit underneath, and I wish I would have worn like biker shorts and like a different tank top that wasn't cotton and like a sports bra set instead of a bathing suit. But other than that, everything was a great time. Oh, remember, if you're going into the national parks, takes a little while to get in, takes a little while to wait at the lines. It probably took me 40 minutes to get into Grand Canyon, and then probably another like 10-15 to get to where you park to bebop around from there. So I would definitely say that was my other takeaway, was just over plan on time. Give yourself more time than you need, then you don't have to worry about running around, and then you have plenty of time to do all the things you want to do. So that is all I have for this episode about my little healing trip through Arizona, Utah, and Vegas. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I had the best time and the best time telling you guys about it. Thanks so much for tuning in, and happy healing, babes.